Howdy. Okay, so a lot of people are asking me today if Bitcoin is finally dead and should we go ahead and start selling. And I can't tell you whether you should sell or not, but all I can do is tell you what I'm going to do. Remember, this is not financial advice, but for any spare cash that I have lying around, now I am a little bit cash tight at the moment only because I've been deploying so much into Bitcoin as it is, but any further cash that I have lying around, I'm definitely going to be deploying that right into Bitcoin. These prices for me are just absolutely beautiful. And going back to the question of is Bitcoin dead, I suppose we've got to ask the question, well, what would that actually mean? You know, what does it mean to actually be dead? And it got me thinking, and I thought, you know, the same way how at some point we've got the non-believers, the ones who don't believe that Bitcoin is of any type of success. At some point, they have to wake up and realize that, oh, it is actually a success. And what does that look like for them? You know, whether it be something like the internet or, you know, the adoption of the automobile. There was once upon a time that people didn't believe in cars. They thought the horse and carriage was going to be forever. And when somebody invented the car, they pushed back and they said, oh, this technology is it's just too far out there. It's never going to work. You have to pave every single road. Horses can ride on, you know, gravel. Cars are just never going to work. And eventually, there was mass adoption, and it was around. The same was true for the internet. The same was true for railroads, and so on and so forth. Every time that there's a new technology, at some point, the argument that it's never going to work dies, and the technology shines. So I can't answer for them as to what it's going to take to convince them that Bitcoin is a new technology and it is here to stay. But what I can do is at least answer from my perspective, because for every one side that you ask the question of what does it mean that you accept it, you also have to ask the other question of what would it mean or what would it take for you to reject it. And so I had to stop and think about it. And I think as of right now, Bitcoin is far from dead. In fact, it's actually never been stronger than what it is currently today. The network continues to grow. The miner hash rates has continued to increase. So the amounts of adoption, again, that base, I'm not talking about the trading. I'm not talking about the day traders. I'm not talking about, you know, Wall Street getting involved. No, that was all for the quick buck. I'm talking about the mindset, the adoption rate of the amounts of people who are waking up to the idea of Bitcoin potentially being a future monetary currency or a monetary policy. Then when you look at it from that side, you know, what does it mean for Bitcoin to be dead? And I think for me, one, every single node in the world that is currently running Bitcoin, that has the entire blockchain of Bitcoin, the entire history of Bitcoin, would have to delete its information, and it would have to go out of date. So roughly there's 18,000, I think 18,000 and counting nodes currently today. Every single one of them would have to either stop updating or go ahead and delete its information. That is a tall order to ask for. To request or for every single person to stop running their nodes is, to me, it's just impractical. I just don't see it happening. You would almost have to first see a trend downwards, but we're still currently seeing a trend upwards. If I start seeing a trend downwards, then maybe you can start saying, oh, less people are starting to believe in it, and therefore Bitcoin is one day going to die. But as of right now, when you see the node adoption increasing and the hash rate, the miner hash rate increasing, well, then this actually tells you that adoption is still on the rise. So that's one thing that will tell me whether Bitcoin is dying or is dead. It would have to go down to absolutely no nodes, because even if there's just one node busy currently running that has the entire information of the blockchain, of the Bitcoin blockchain, then Bitcoin is not dead. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I would have to believe that Bitcoin is dead is if one of the algorithms, if there's a severe flaw in one of the algorithms and it is irreparable. I'm not talking about the, you know, at the moment, the cryptographic algorithm that we're currently using to, you know, to encrypt the information is SHA-256. You don't have to go into the details of that. People are constantly trying to upgrade, constantly trying to attack it, constantly trying to upgrade to the next level. And so there is a bit of a race between, can hackers hack it before we can actually move on to something that's safer. And the Bitcoin community is currently working extremely hard on this to always be way ahead of it. Now, just to let you know, it is not just Bitcoin that is using SHA-256. Your bank accounts are using it. Every time that you send a text message or every time that you access a web page, you're using SHA-256. This is technology that is encrypting the information so that no one can intercept and feed the information that they wish to pass on to the next person. That is actually what makes it so secure. The entire internet is currently operating on it. So if it breaks, it doesn't just mean that Bitcoin breaks, it means the entire internet breaks. So do not worry that if this algorithm is broken, that Bitcoin is in trouble, because you got way bigger things to worry about than just Bitcoin. Also, just to let you know, the US nuclear codes are using SHA-256. So again, so it's not just Bitcoin. But just to let you know that Bitcoin is safer than the nuclear codes. Why? Because there's only a handful of individuals who know what the nuclear codes are. So if those individuals are compromised, then it's disaster. It's absolutely disaster for everyone. Whereas with Bitcoin, you have to hack every single node, every single miner in order to actually break Bitcoin. So not only is Bitcoin using the SHA-256 cryptographic algorithm, but it's also decentralized, which means you would have to break the algorithm plus hack every single node, because the minute that you break the algorithm, the Bitcoin network is just going to move on to the next best technology. Currently, I think they're working on SHA-512. It's the next upgrade. So don't think that just because SHA-256 algorithm has been broken, that Bitcoin automatically is broken. In fact, you got other things to worry about before you have to worry about Bitcoin. Bitcoin still stands a chance. The nuclear codes stands very little chance. So that you should be more worried about than Bitcoin breaking. So that's the second thing, are the algorithms. And it's not just the SHA-256. There's a whole bunch of algorithms that actually make it extremely powerful and the way that they work together. So there's always a worry and a possibility that maybe there's some blind-sided issue that no one has ever picked up on. That maybe there's a backdoor or something like that. Now this is such a tiny, minute chance of something like this happening that it's not even actually worth mentioning. But there is always something about that you have to be concerned about. But it's not to say that again, that the dollar, that the amounts of dollar that's being printed, what if a hacker can actually get in the system and print trillions of dollars and send it to their own bank account or send it to some offshore account? That actually stands higher chance than something like Bitcoin having some kind of backdoor. So again, very low on the scale, but it's a non-zero chance that you have to consider. So that's one of the issues. But then even if we were to say, okay, well, right, that's a no cash, no Bitcoin, let's actually go back to gold. Even gold has its issues because from a physics point of view, right now, one of the reasons why gold is so precious is because you cannot recreate it. Gold is currently being only manufactured when a star explodes. That is how gold is originally manufactured. I don't want to get into the details of it, but when a star explodes, when it meets the end of its life and it goes supernova and explodes, that is when gold is created, and it spews out all these elements, not just gold, but a whole bunch of other elements. It spews it out across the universe, some of it landing on Earth, creating new star systems, creating planets. And so what's beautiful about that is knowing that they can only be made in stars, then we know that there is a limited amount of gold. But physics is improving every single day. We're starting to answer more and more questions. And what if we reach a point where we are able to make our own gold? They have actually made synthetic gold. In fact, I think they called it fool's gold, where basically it looks exactly the same, it had the same properties, and for a while they actually believed that it was, but actually turned out that it wasn't. It just looked like it, and it was actually, I think it was highly radioactive, and it was turning back to the elements that originally was. So again, these are all very technical, very physics-oriented situations, nothing that you really have to concern yourself with. But the point is that as technology is moving forward, then maybe gold one day is not going to be a finite supply. One day we'll be able to make it in our backyard. Maybe it will be a grade 3 project that you do at school. Who knows what the future is going to hold? So every single monetary policy or every single system that you have to that you're looking at, you have to consider all the alternatives and how it can actually be broken. And it wouldn't be fair just to pick upon one. It would be better to rather look at all the pros and cons of all of them and then weigh up your options from there. And still, in my books, in my opinion, Bitcoin is still by far the safest. The decentralized nature is what makes it superior to anything else. You cannot make any more, even if the algorithm is it gets fiddled with. The rest of the network will reject that new algorithm, that backdoor. It will patch it up, and we would reject this new version that is trying to print more Bitcoin, and we would just continue operating without that node, without that algorithm. So it's far safer than the monetary system that we're currently using, as well as a gold network. So this is one of the things that I like to consider. And then finally, the final thing that I have to really think about, and I don't like to think about price too much, because I mean, this is a 20, 30-year game plan. Bitcoin is going to be extremely volatile. It's going to go up, it's going to go down. It just recently went past its last all-time high, which is a huge psychological issue that a lot of people are trying to get past. Those that actually invested in the top 4 years ago was temporarily sitting with a loss. I think they're back to a profit now, but the psychology of hanging on to something for so long and then still be in a loss, yeah, that is extremely painful. So I don't like to think about price too much, because again, this is a very long-term story. But if I were to consider it, is there a price level, the same way how one day there has to be a price level so high that people would have to accept Bitcoin? If the whole world is operating Bitcoin on a Bitcoin standard, then you can no longer say that Bitcoin is dying, or Bitcoin is dead, or Bitcoin's not going to work. If it works, it works, and you just have to accept it. But is there an opposite? Is there a low point that I would have to say, okay, you know what, I throw in the towel, I don't think that Bitcoin is going to work? And I had to really stop and think about it, and I think the number for me would have to be, well, first of all, anywhere between $20,000 and $10,000 price is extremely painful. This is painful for anyone, including for myself. Even though you might still be in profit, but the fact that to hit that $69,000 and then it came to this range that it was sitting in for a short period is extremely painful. But it doesn't mean that it's broken. Bitcoin has done many cycles, going up and coming straight down. That's actually nothing new. It's just, as I said, it's like a roller coaster. You just enjoy the ride, you clench your stomach, and you try to get through to the other side, and so be it. So although it might be painful, it's definitely nowhere near dead. That by no means is it dead at all. But what if it gets sub 10,000? Well, again, I would start questioning the adoption curve. Are people adopting it as I thought that they were adopting it? I think that I've said before that I think that the adoption curve minimum, in other words, those people that are waking up to the lights and actually seeing Bitcoin as a potential monetary standard that is far superior than anything else, and is now thinking in Bitcoin and is converting their wealth to Bitcoin. I've done the calculations, and I'm thinking that it shouldn't hit anything past 15,000. Now, could it go further than that? Absolutely. Again, this is not financial advice. I'm not looking in any crystal ball that trying to work this out. I'm just looking at algorithms that work out adoption curves. The same kind of algorithms that you use to determine the population size of rabbits. If you let rabbits go into the wild and you track it, you can actually use a formula to track the population size of the rabbits. I mean, there's mathematical formulas that can work this out. So if you apply similar types of mathematical formulas, you can actually work out what the adoption rate should be. One person is waking up, that person is now converting their funds into Bitcoin. They're telling their friends and family. they of their 10 friends and family, maybe only one person is actually waking up to the idea. That person then adopts the Bitcoin as a standard. They tell their 10 family members, and so on and so forth. Maybe 2 of them think, okay, I'm just going to double. Maybe one of them is an investor, a Wall Street investor, and they're just going to jump in and try to jump out at a certain point. That to me is not adoption. I'm talking about people that are seeing it as a potential future monetary system. That's what I'm talking about. So when you follow the adoption curve, our worst out to be roughly about $15,000 and climbing. As I said, adoption is usually exponential. So that is a climbing number. We got extremely close. We got down to 17,000. And in fact, actually, I think the range will sit between like somewhere between 15 and 25,000. We did test 17,000, so it could absolutely keep going past. But how much further down would it have to go for me to feel that it's absolutely broken? Sub 10,000, I would start questioning the adoption curve. It doesn't mean Bitcoin's broken, because again, Bitcoin just continues ticking, block after block. The hash rate continues to increase. The amounts of node adoption continues to increase. So price doesn't necessarily mean anything to do with its relative strength. It just means that the amounts of people that are converting their net worth. You could be a believer, but have absolutely no net worth at all that you can't put into Bitcoin at all. So the breaking point, the point that I'm trying to get at is, to me, the breaking point is sub $3,000. If we get to sub $3,000, I would start feeling that, one, the financial adoption is definitely not there. The psychological aspects of Bitcoin will be severely broken. If we see a price of Bitcoin at $3,000, this would tell me that it's definitely not a store of value. It's gone so far down that it's actually reached the low point of the previous bull cycle, which means that we would then have to completely reject the 5-year waiting period of never being in a loss. We then have to start looking at the 10 years, and nobody wants to look at an investment for 10 years. Even though that is probably what you should be doing, we should all be looking at investments for 10, 15, 20 years, but psychologically, nobody wants to do that. And so if we have to wait 10 years for a price that might be higher than $3,000, that is just psychologically very damaging. And I think that the human nature is, we're incredibly selfish creatures. I talk, it would be a lie for me to tell you that I don't want Bitcoin. I don't look at the price, or to say that I'm only just in it for the technology. I'm absolutely in it for the technology, and I'm absolutely in it for the revolution. But of course, I want the price to go up. Of course, I want a bit of success in the research that I did to, invest my money in where I thought was safe, and to see that grow. It would be a lie for me to say, oh no, I don't care at all. And any human being who tells you that would be lying too. I'm trying to be as honest and open with you as possible. So if I were to see a price of $3,000, it would be absolutely psychologically breaking. It absolutely would. Of course, I would be open to the idea of it. Again, anything is possible. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer in this. Nobody has a crystal ball. I would also be happy to accept my defeat. I would be happy to say, okay, you know what? I think even though the technology is great, the adoption just isn't there. And maybe it might take another 20, 30 years. Maybe I'm too soon. Maybe I'm too early. I have actually noticed that there's been many stories in history where somebody will create something absolutely amazing, but it was just too soon for their time. Maybe this is one of those technologies. Maybe this is a technology that will only, a society will only wake up to in 20, 30, 40, 50 years time from now. That maybe Bitcoin was too soon for now. And the other aspects of it is, just like the internet, just like the automobile, just like the train system, the railways, when technologies first come on the market, you have to convince people why it's better. And sometimes those reasons just aren't obvious. They aren't obvious. Plus, you have a whole bunch of people that are trying to push against it because it's not beneficial for them. If you own a carriage maker, if you're a carpenter and you make carriages for horses, and suddenly an automobile comes along and it's made of metal and it doesn't need any horse at all, you would have every interest to push against this new idea. So you have to fight against the FUD, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. You would have to convince people of why, and especially the heart of the technology, the internet, was an extremely hard concept to grasp before it was obvious. When web pages were first created, even myself, I looked at it and I was like, okay, but what am I going to do with this? Okay, so it's some text on a screen. What can anybody do with this? How is this powerful? It's only once layers start getting built on top of it, and when you start seeing the developments, it's only when other people have the vision and they start developing on top of it that it starts becoming increasingly more obvious. Now we cannot live without the internet. You're watching this on the internet. So it's a huge psychological barrier for humans. And so one of my concerns are, have we met our human intellectual maximum capacity? No matter how hard you try to explain even the current financial system, in all its horrors is still far superior than no financial system. It's just blatantly, for somebody who really dislikes the financial system, who wants to use some really strong words about it, I still admit and still have to accept that it's still far better than no financial system at all. Can you imagine the chaos that would ensue just having no financial system at all? How do you transact? How would do we go back to the barter system? That would just be absolute madness. So even with the current financial system, with all its horrors, if you were to try to explain to a dog or a bird or an animal of your choosing, a dolphin, if you were to explain to them why it's beneficial, why having a bank account is beneficial, having a credit card, transacting, getting a loan, paying for something on your debit card, whatever it is, no matter how hard you try, I'm going to say it's near impossible. And why? Because we've reached the intellectual capacity to understand why a financial system is beneficial over no financial system. So have we as a human society reached our max capacity? And I'm not saying that I'm more intelligent than anyone else. No, please do not think I'm by no means anywhere near intelligence. It's all that I had was a background in computer science and time to investigate in Bitcoin, to investigate what this new technology was and why it was necessary. Many people don't have that. In fact, I can say that 99% of human society don't have that. So this is not an intelligence thing. This is the capacity to sit down and study and understand why it's necessary. And if you can't do that, then you're never going to understand it. No matter how intelligent you are, if you don't sit down and take a look at it, you'll never wake up to the idea. So this is actually more my concern. It's not an intelligence thing. It's more, do humans have the capacity to sit down and the patience to sit down and understand why it's necessary? And it's very possible that maybe we have reached that limit. The internet was much easier to see. When you saw a video coming through, when first it was just text and you're like, okay, what am I going to do with this text? But the minute that you saw a video, and then even further, you were able to video chat with someone else across the world, then suddenly you start seeing it was very apparent. It was for free. You didn't have to see why it was valuable. It was obvious. But Bitcoin is not exactly that obvious. It's not. You have to do a ton of research. You have to, as I said, you have to have a computer science background just to understand the algorithms. You have to, and let me tell you, I don't even understand all the algorithms in its entirety. I just have the overall understanding of how Bitcoin works. So not only does it help to have a computer science background, but you also need a finance background, and you also need to understand the history of all currencies. What happens to every single currency? You have to understand what the Federal Reserve Bank is doing right now. There's a whole host of different categories of information that you need in order for the light bulbs to come on and say, oh, I understand why Bitcoin. I understand what everyone is ranting and raving about. So when people don't have the time, when people don't have the luxury, and let's be honest, in today's day and age, it's like we're entering a new age of slavery. We're spending more time at the office. We're spending more time away from the luxuries and the and let's be honest, who wants to sit there and study about Bitcoin when you can be chilling on the beach and you can be, hanging out with your friends, especially after a long hard day's work. So this is not an intelligence limitation. It does require intelligence to understand it. That is true. It's building blocks. You need a strong foundation. You need one piece of information to be built on top of another, to be built on top of another, before that light bulb comes on. And so the question is, have we met our limitation? And that's actually, to be honest, my biggest concern. So when I'm investing in Bitcoin, or when I'm putting my heart and soul into the idea that Bitcoin is going to be the monetary system of the future, I'm actually, my confidence in the algorithms, my confidence in the network is 99.99999% there. My biggest concern and the biggest risk that I'm taking is actually on society. It's actually on, can society wake up to understand it? That's where the biggest challenge is. So those are my concerns. If we don't have human adoption, a societal adoption of Bitcoin, if some of the algorithms break, and if the price point, although I don't like to really think about price points, if price point goes below 3,000, I will start considering Bitcoin dead. But as of right now, Bitcoin is alive and well. Every single time it faces a challenge, it comes roaring back with full force and more power. It happens every single time. And the beautiful thing about it is that it's almost like a living organism. Every time that there is an attack, the network gets stronger. The people involved, if there's any kind of attack vector, the people rush to fill that gap and protect the network. It's in all of our interests to make sure that this network is as strong as possible. And how beautiful that I don't have to worry or depend on some bank and their algorithm or their financial system. No, it's the entire world who's interested in Bitcoin will ensure that it's protected. That's the beauty about it. So anyway, this is a little longer winded than I hoped. Hope this answers some of your questions. And if you have any of your concerns, please leave it in the comments section below. I will see if I can, pick at it. I think it's extremely important to not just go in blindly. I think we have to absolutely tear it apart. If you just sit there and look at all the things that actually make it look good, then you stand to lose a lot if you're wrong. So it's extremely important to challenge your own thoughts, to look at it from every single angle possible, to really get down to the nitty gritty areas of it and see how is it possible for me to attack it? Is it possible for anyone to attack it from any point of angle? And not just with Bitcoin, but with any investment or any decision that you make. So any comments, leave it in the comment section below. If you like what you saw, hit the like button, share it, subscribe. And my name is Greg, and I guess I will see you around.